The invitation had come as a surprise, wrapped in polite words and a hint of curiosity I couldn't ignore. My name is Daniel, and I had spent the last few months quietly grappling with the reality that my wife, Claire, had been unfaithful. The betrayal had cut deep, leaving me cautious, wary, yet strangely intrigued by the situation that life had thrown at me. And now, here I was, staring at the invitation for a social event that would bring me face to face with someone I never imagined meeting. The wife of the man my Claire had been seeing behind my back. I arrived at the party early, as any calculated observer would. The room was a swirl of laughter, clinking glasses, and music that buzzed just beneath the surface of conversation. People moved effortlessly in groups, exchanging pleasantries and casual smiles. But I was focused. Every detail mattered. Every interaction could reveal the hidden currents beneath the polished surface. And then I saw her, Rebecca. Elegant, poised. Yet there was an edge in her demeanor, a quiet tension that hinted at the complicated reality we now shared. We exchanged greetings, awkward yet measured, both aware of the invisible threads connecting our lives. She sipped her wine carefully, her eyes scanning the room with practiced poise. I could sense that, like me, she was evaluating, judging, and preparing. Yet there was a flicker of curiosity, an unspoken agreement that we were here to observe, not to explode into confrontation, at least for now. As the evening unfolded, our paths crossed repeatedly. Each encounter brought a mixture of tension and fascination. She would offer polite smiles, careful words, but I could feel the undercurrent of unspoken knowledge. There were moments when our gazes met, and I wondered what she thought, what she felt, and what secrets lingered beneath her composed exterior. It was a delicate dance, a careful navigation of shared betrayal, and I realized that this party was more than social. It was a battlefield of perception, wit, and subtle influence. By the time the first hour passed, I understood that this evening was going to change everything, not through anger, but through observation, revelation, and the unexpected ways in which truth has a way of surfacing when least expected. As the night progressed, the subtle tension between us became more apparent. Rebecca and I found ourselves standing near the corner of the room, away from the crowd, forced into a conversation neither of us wanted but both of us needed. Her voice was calm, yet beneath it lay the strain of someone carrying their own burdens. "Daniel," she said carefully, "this is awkward, isn't it?" I nodded, aware that the word barely scratched the surface of the storm that had built up between us. We spoke cautiously, sharing details about our lives without revealing too much, navigating the delicate balance between honesty and restraint. Every word, every gesture was measured. We both understood that the evening's true purpose was not social, it was strategic. I wanted answers, insight, and perhaps a sense of control in a situation that had left my personal life fractured. And I sensed she was seeking the same: comprehension, validation, and maybe closure for her own confusion. At one point, she leaned slightly closer, her eyes narrowing just enough for me to notice the tension. "You know," she said, almost whispering, "he never talks about the impact it has on people like us. The consequences, the lives he touches and leaves behind." Her words hit with precision. I realized that her awareness mirrored my own. We were both victims in a web of deceit spun by someone else's selfishness. And yet, there was a strange solidarity between us, born of shared experience, betrayal, and unspoken recognition of each other's pain. The music shifted, a soft melody that contrasted the electric tension in the room. We continued to talk, circling delicate truths, revealing small pieces of our lives while withholding others. Each revelation was like a puzzle piece, completing an image that neither of us had expected to see. I noticed the way her fingers nervously touched her glass, the subtle flicker of emotion that betrayed her composed exterior. And in that moment, I realized this encounter was not just an accident of fate. It was a turning point, a meeting that could reshape how we understood the entire situation. By the end of the night, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. What had begun as a social gathering had become an emotional battlefield, a place where truth, strategy, and revelation collided in ways I never could have imagined. And the most shocking part was still ahead, waiting to unfold. The final hour of the party approached, and the tension between us reached its peak. I could see it in Rebecca's eyes, The mixture of anger, curiosity, and disbelief that mirrored my own. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this moment was inevitable. The confrontation that would either shatter the fragile civility between us or reveal truths that had been hidden for far too long. It happened when our paths crossed near the dessert table. I caught her gaze, and without thinking, I asked the question that had been burning inside me all evening. Did you ever imagine it would come to this? She looked at me, taking a slow breath before replying. No, but now that we're here, I realize something. We've both been used, manipulated, and misled. And the irony, she paused, shaking her head with a small, bitter laugh, is that we're standing here side by side, trying to make sense of someone else's betrayal. Her words hit me harder than I expected. The realization was undeniable. We were two people, both hurt, both betrayed, both seeking answers from someone who had thought they could play us against each other. And in that moment, I felt an unexpected surge of clarity, a mix of vindication and understanding. Then came the twist I never anticipated. Another guest, a mutual friend who had been observing us quietly, approached and whispered something in Rebecca's ear. Her eyes widened, and she looked at me with an expression I will never forget. A mixture of shock, revelation, and awe. "Daniel," she whispered, "he's been lying about everything. About us, about you, about me, everything." The room seemed to shrink around us as the truth sank in. The man we had both been furious with, the one who had caused so much pain, had been weaving deception in ways neither of us had fully comprehended. And suddenly the dynamic shifted. We were no longer just two betrayed partners. We were allies, standing together against the man who had underestimated the consequences of his actions. By the end of the night, what started as a tense, awkward social gathering had transformed into a revelation of character, truth, and unexpected solidarity. Rebecca and I left the party not as enemies, but as two people bound by circumstance and betrayal, realizing that sometimes, the most shocking truths emerge not from confrontation, but from shared understanding. That evening changed everything, not just in my marriage, but in the way I saw trust, loyalty, and the intricate webs people weave when they think no one is watching.